There's a little bit of a kind of a love triangle that goes on in this movie that I hear is not in the book. Thank you, Hollywood, for listening to everyone's vast complaints about love triangles. By the way, nobody likes them anymore, okay? Twilight is done. Get over it. Move on. Seriously. Good grief. Hello fellow nerds, it's Alicia here at Nerd Park. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Fifth Wave, the movie that just came out this past Friday. Let's just say I'm not gonna have a lot of great things to say about it. Don't get me wrong, there wasn't like everything bad about it, but it just wasn't the best thing I've ever seen. Just as a FYI, I have not read the Fifth Wave book. This is probably, I broke my rule of not seeing movies if I haven't read the books, just because I was kind of thinking, well, there's nothing else really coming out that weekend, and I normally do the young adult adaptation reviews anyway, or I want to start doing that. So I haven't read this book, so it gave me more of an objective opinion on it, and I wasn't sitting there like noting all of the inconsistencies from book to movie adaptation and everything like that. So this is going to be purely based on the movie and not the book, so sorry book lovers. The movie, you know, it was a typical young adult, post-apocalyptic, well, mid-apocalyptic movie, and unfortunately that's becoming a really big trope right now. It's getting a little tiresome, and this movie was actually kind of like all of the bad things about apocalypse stories. You know, it was just, we had these really bland characters who were set in this really bland world. Like, you know, we had these bad guys who didn't really have a unique look at all. They looked like people and everything, and then even in their true forms, they looked like a variation of the facehuggers from the Alien movies, but not scary. It's just like a Hollywood executive sat down and thought, what do the young people like nowadays? And just put it all in a big old pot and was like, yes, it's perfect. But it really wasn't. I mean, it was vaguely entertaining. Like, you know, I wasn't sitting there bored out of my gourd or anything like that. But it was still this thing where I didn't care about the plight of the characters or anything like that. The story, if you guys don't know, is about a girl named Cassie, and she's pretty normal until these aliens decide to take over the Earth. And they send, in order to destroy the human race, they send out these waves of attacks. So there have been 4 waves so far. I can't even remember what they all are. I think it was like, first was they took out all the electronics in the world, and then they sent earthquakes, and then they sent sickness like bird flu and stuff like that, and I don't remember the last one. See, that's how non-memorable that was. So there have been 4 waves of attacks, and now there's this 5th wave that's coming that everyone's like, oh, like it's gonna be a big one and everything like that, and it's going to like finally finish everybody. And so Cassie is this girl who's been kind of trying to survive, and she has to go save her brother because she and her brother have been separated. Her brother was taken off to this government facility where he's trained to be a soldier with all these other kids. That's a smart idea, giving children guns. So she has to go find her brother, and she's just basically the whole thing is her just walking around in the woods, and then she meets a hot guy, and they make out for a little while, and then she goes and saves her brother, and that's it. Yeah. Being the main protagonist, she did not see the most amount of action, and that just kind of drives me nuts. Like, I honestly cared more about seeing the kids at the government facility more than I cared about her, which is really stupid because you should care about your protagonist more than anything. And yeah, I just didn't. So one of the things that I liked most about this movie was the women actors did such a great job. Chloe Moretz is always great to see. She's a very different departure. The thing that I know her most from is Kick-Ass, and obviously it's been a few years since that has come out. But it's a big departure from something like that, where she's not the kick-ass. I mean, she's able to survive on her own in this movie, but she's fragile. She's not this brave, like, total badass who's just gonna come in and, like, you know, sweep the room and, like, not even bat an eye. She gets scared in this. She, you know, has a lot of emotions, which is understandable for someone who's just been thrown into the situation. So I thought she did a really good job with what she was given. And there are some other women in this too, like there was the main adult woman who's a soldier in the military, or I think she was like a sergeant or a lieutenant, I don't remember. She was awesome. She was scary as heck. I really liked her. And then there was another girl, I think her character name was Ringer? And she did a really nice job too. She was more of the tough girl and everything like that. And she did a nice job. The boys, however, oh boy. Like, I don't know if they have some sort of farm where they just gather these generic white boys and put them in movies, but that's what it was for this. Like, the two main boy characters, one was Zombie, was his nickname. His real name was Ben, but they called him Zombie. Just, like, I didn't care about him one bit because, like, he didn't seem to care about anything. Like, he literally felt like a zombie to me, which I don't know if that was the point or what, but I didn't care about him at all. And he was like the second main character. So the other guy, Evan, was even worse. This guy is Cassie's love interest or whatever, and he is just the blandest of the bland white boys in the world. Like, do not get me wrong, this guy is attractive. Like, he's conventionally beautiful, but he just can't, like, that's the only reason he was put in this movie, was to be really hot. And I'm like, no, can you please give us people who can act? Please, for the love of God. Even Liv Schreiber, who was like the biggest name in this movie, he played like the general guy. We got hardly any of him. He was very generic, very bland. Like, there was nothing scary about him at all. I wasn't scared of him. And he was kind of like the main bad guy. And I'm just like, what? Why? Like, you're wasting such talent. And that's what I really hate, that when, like, young adult adaptations, you know, obviously their bigger stars are going to be the adults because they try and get in, like, these newer stars and stuff like that for the young kid roles. And so they always get, like, some sort of big name. But then they don't utilize them, you know? Like, Kate Winslet in the Divergent movies could have been really awesome. But since they write her so poorly, it's like, no, and we're just getting someone who's been used and wasted. The pacing of the movie was totally uneven, too. And that's why I feel like something like this would either work better as a television show or a book, because you can take the time to kind of like go through everything that happens. The first half hour of the movie was going really quickly through the beginning of the apocalypse. That's all it was. It was just this very much, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. When we actually catch up to what's happening in the present, it takes forever to get to the main point. You know, we have like a half hour of all this like rapid fire exposition, and then we have just walking around in the woods for 2 hours. And also, it was very anticlimactic. It all seemed way too easy how they got out of their situations. There was no real struggle to win at the end of it. They basically walked in and walked out, and no one was hurt, and everything was rainbows. There was just not any consequences at all, which really sucks because a lot of young adult novels or young adult adaptations of novels tend to have these dire consequences at the end of their first book. And so, like, the fact that we get this really easy way out of the conflict really drove me nuts. I was just left going like, that's it? That's all we get? The best part of this movie was the beginning. The beginning scene in this movie was amazing. It had a lot of tension, a lot of this crazy, like, moral crux kind of feel to it. But that was about it. You know, that was about the only good part in the movie. It was really intense, and then it died really quick. Maybe check out the book instead of the movie if you really think the movie looks kind of neat. It's not, so read the book instead. As far as a rating for this movie goes, I would probably give it about a 5 out of 10. Because, yeah, I mean, it's not an awful movie. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's really generic. It's really middle of the road. Like, you know, I was relatively entertained, but at the same time, it was a pretty dismal movie. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. We're gonna have more movie reviews next week. I think next week Corey's going to be reviewing The Boy, so make sure you tune into that, all of you horror lovers. In the meantime, check out our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, SoundCloud, WordPress. That is all going to be in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing to Nerd Park, and remember, stay nerdy.